This video, I'm going to be sharing with you the 3 phases of what is called first contact. This is something that has already started, and I'm going to show you exactly what to expect. Welcome back to another video. My name is Aaron, and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you that of understanding more about what is called first contact, understanding more about, in a way, disclosure, and understanding who we really are as spiritual beings living in this temporary human experience. Now, this is going to be based in a couple pieces of research. One of that is that of the work of Dolores Cannon. Some of you have heard me talk about her books before, and it's a level of consciousness where people get into what is called one of the deepest levels of consciousness, where their higher self and their subconscious mind comes through. It's a level of hypnosis. And she has had people in this QHHT technique, quantum healing hypnosis technique, and she's had thousands of people go under in this level of consciousness, and what can come through is amazing different type of things, understanding who we are, why we had certain experiences with certain types of people, understanding what our purpose is in life, and who we are beyond just this physical experience and what we're experiencing in those realities. And there's been a lot of information that's come through, and in her 17 or 19 books, it explains that. Now, some of the other information I'll be drawing from is that of Bashar. Many of you heard me talk about Bashar as well before. And Bashar talks a lot about first contact and how, as who he is. It's like an Abraham Hicks type thing where it's channeled material. And what he says is his job from the higher self point of view of Daryl Anka, who is the channel, is that what he does as a soul is he comes into different realities and allows his higher mind to channel through to then relay certain information that helps us become more aware of who we are, because that's one of the first phases of first contact. So he is what is called a first contact specialist. Now, I've been listening to Bashar since 2012. I've been reading on Dolores Cannon books since 2013. And I've done quite a bit of research in it, and there's a lot of parallels with this. And then even if you look into the Law of One material, the Law of One, the raw materials, that's some of the most profound channeling material of all time. And it was done with a physicist asking the questions through his wife, Carla, who was channeling the raw beings who were responsible for that of the Egyptian pyramids and many other pieces of information that have come into our reality. So what I'm saying is that there's a correlation between all of these different sources and many others as well. But these are the 3 that I'll mainly be quoting and taking the information from for this video. And when it comes to the 3 phases of contact, the way that I understand it is that in this lifetime, first off, if we draw upon Dolores Cannon, in this lifetime, we knew that there would be a shift in consciousness happening. In the Law of One materials, this is called the harvest. What we are doing is we are harvesting from a 3rd density reality to a 4th density reality, which is similar to dimensions, but it's also different. 3rd density is a level of consciousness of us understanding duality, good, bad, light, dark, us really emphasizing form. 4th density is when we start to get into a level of consciousness where things are still physical, but it becomes much more dreamlike. We start to exist much more in our heart center. And 4th density is when things become much more magical in general. And in this reality, what we are moving from, and what the raw material states, is that we are moving from a 3rd density to a 4th density reality. And when we look at that of Bashar, he says the exact same thing. We are moving from 3rd density into 4th density. The Dolores Cannon books talk about how we are also moving from this shift in consciousness. She refers to it more as 3rd dimension to 5th dimension, which is the same thing with 3rd density to 4th density. It's just we're using dimensions or densities. They're different levels of consciousness, and right now on the planet, we are going through this shift. Now, part of this shift has to do with us understanding our vibration in relation to that of other dimensional beings. Now, before we talk about other dimensional beings, we must understand that we are multidimensional beings. We exist at many different levels. This is something that comes through all 3 of those materials, all 3 of them, whether it's Bashar, Dolores Cannon, or the raw materials. We are multidimensional beings that exist at higher levels of consciousness that have forgotten that this is who we are. Because the reason we came into this reality, one of the things we had to do is there's free will in this reality. There is something called the law of forgetfulness. We forget who we are so that we can come into this reality so that then we can then wake up to who we really are. It's part of the game. And there are certain realities, there are certain planets that you may incarnate into and you will remember who you are. They're a higher vibration than here. And all of us have existences in higher vibrational realities. But to come here, we had to forget who we are. We had to lessen our body in the densities. They talk about this in Dolores Cannon's, in Bashar. They talk about this in all three of those. How when we come here, we have to lessen our vibration, go through different densities in order to then incarnate, forget who we are completely, and then go through this process of remembering. So it's part of the process of us as a soul coming here. Earth is a master's school. It's a paradox because on one end, you could say it's a kindergarten because many of us are remembering who we are. And if you look at the levels of consciousness in the world and you see people at war against each other who have no idea that they are other versions of themselves, who don't remember that they have this connection but are fighting each other, then you see it's like a kindergarten. But at the same time, in order to incarnate in this much density, you must be a master soul. You must be able to carry and go through that much darkness in order to get to this much lightness. But in this time, in this reality, it's the most profound time ever because we are able to go from this much density, this much darkness, into this much lightness, and it's happening right now on the planet. In this lifetime, there will be more transformation than we have ever seen before on the planet in the shortest amount of time. That's what is called the graduation, the harvest. It is happening now. Now, there's three main phases of first contact. Now, when it comes to first contact, understand that these other dimensional beings, many of these other dimensional beings, higher dimensional beings, ET beings that we talk about, they're other versions of us. They're other versions of us. We are multidimensional beings. We exist here in the third dimension. We also exist in the fifth dimension and higher dimensions, but we forget about those connections when we are here. Spiritual awakening is when we become aware that we are immortal spiritual beings, eternal spiritual beings, living temporary human experiences. And because that's who we are, we start to remember this. We start to go through a process of bringing more of our 5D energy in, more of our higher vibrational energy in. Many of us are picking up on frequencies of existences we have in different realities, and that's what we call star seeds. People that are drawing upon energy from maybe the Pleiades, maybe Sirius, maybe Andromedan, maybe Arcturus. These are all different planetary systems that we have multidimensional connections to. And when you go to bed at every night, you may be awake in those dimensions, in those realities. But when you come here, you forget this. Now, first contact, why we think of it as higher vibrational beings, there are other versions of us. And when we see that, it gets away a lot of the fear because these other versions of us are aware that we are connected to them. When Daryl Anka is channeling Bashar is just a name that we use, but he's connecting to his higher self-existence in a planet called Esasani, which is more fourth density going into fifth density level of consciousness. So as we are going from 3D to 4D, we have multidimensional existences where we are going from 4D to 5D or 5D to 6D or 6D to 7D. There are many different dimensions. And we are going through a transformation of consciousness in this dimension, and as below, so below. And so below as above. So we are also going through this transition in different ways. So when I explain all this, one of the reasons I'm explaining all these different levels is because first contact is about us connecting to these ET beings. They are trying to meet us halfway. What I mean by that is their vibration is so high. They are also other versions of us. Their vibration is so high that when we meet them, it would jolt our energy field unless we were able to meet them halfway. The way that Bashar has explained it is that imagine we have a very high spinning gear, very high vibration, and then we are a very low spinning gear. If you were to jam these two gears together, they would strip they would be stripped. The lower vibrational one would completely strip it, depending on the faster gear. But if we were able to move faster, we can then meet it halfway, so then it can then carry us faster and faster. So that's what first contact is. It's about us understanding our connection to our multidimensional selves, and then understanding as well that when it comes to these three phases I'm about to share with you, that ETs have been around for thousands and thousands of years. It's just that the information has been suppressed. But these ETs are other versions of us. They're connected to us. So the way that Bashar explains first contact is the different phases. The first phase is what is happening right now on the planet. You have me bringing through information connected to my higher self and bringing through different information about this process. You have also the information, the daily YouTube videos I make. That's me connecting to my higher self. It's not the ego Aaron that's like, oh, I made all this up. No, it's a higher vibrational energy that flows through, and that's why I'm able to make daily videos for 3 years straight every single day. You have people like Bashar, who is channeling, Daryl Anka, who is channeling his higher self and allowing that information to flow through. And that's his higher self, and that's the way that he explains it happens. Bashar says that what he does is people's higher self will bring through ET information, higher vibrational information, higher self information for us to then integrate. And there are millions of people on the planet that have studied channeled material, whether that be the Law of One, whether that be Bashar or Abraham Hicks. And as we become aware of this information, that's the first level of first contact. It's us connecting to our own higher selves. So this has been happening on the planet since like the 1950s or 60s. And every year it becomes more and more powerful. That's the first stage. Because think about this. If ETs were to land and people were at a certain level of consciousness where they're afraid of everyone else, people only perceive of ETs mainly from their own level of consciousness. So when you look at some people that are afraid of ETs landing because they think that ETs are just going to completely obliterate us or imprison us, it's because the current level of consciousness they are is seeing that because we are at war with each other, then obviously these other higher dimensional beings would be at war with us. In a way, it's like thinking that God is some white guy in the sky because we are some white guy, or that's the idea. It's a limited view of perception that we only interpret through means that we relate to. So it's understanding that it's far beyond what we can imagine. Source energy is far beyond some individual race, something that we have with our 3D body. And in the same way, these ETs are beyond our level of consciousness as the 3D physical humans. So it's about understanding that it's much more beyond what we can imagine. And if you were to see how we exist in reality, and we are at war with each other and we have all of these things happening, do you think that higher vibrational beings could even land here and feel safe? You see, they could see probable futures. They could see that if they landed here, it maybe like tomorrow, there'd be a lot of people that'd be afraid and would want to go at war with them because they wouldn't understand that they are other versions of us, and they'd be in fear because they would carry more power. Also, this is something that Bashar said happens when a high vibrational being comes up to you. When a very high vibrational being comes up to you, which we have connections to these, but if they were to physically come up to us, as they were walking up to us, their energy field would be so powerful and so high vibrational that it would bring up anything within us that is not already integrated to the surface so that we could then deal with it, because they're so integrated it would make us immediately have to integrate. And what would then happen is that high vibration we would then feel, and we would feel the negative aspects of that, of some childhood memories that weren't integrated, other things that were integrated. We would then think it was them, and we would think that they were making us feel that way, when really it's ourselves matching a high vibrational frequency and then having to deal with all the shadow aspects that weren't already dealt with. So you see, there's a reason why it has to come in phases. As much as I would love for it to happen tomorrow, for high vibrational beings to come here, for the technology to be released that has been suppressed with free energy. I know at the same time that it's about vibrational resonance and that a lot of the people on the planet might not be ready for it right this moment. But it's still happening. So the first phase is through our own higher selves and bringing through this information because it's the most hands-off way. We can't really go at war with ourselves. We're not gonna have pitchforks trying to like go after aliens when we realize that it's being channeled and it's other connections that we have. So Bashar has explained that in the different protocols, one of them is that the first phase is information being brought through our higher selves and us channeling it, knowing that these are other connections we have. Now the second phase of first contact, has to do with information that has been around but suppressed. It has been about the pyramids and how they were created. It would be about understanding a lot of ancient ruins, a lot of sacred sites on the planet, a lot of past connections we may have had with Atlantis, with Lemuria, with different times on the planet that the history has been suppressed. There has been first contact here for thousands of years. And a lot of the things, when you look into that of different sacred texts, you'll see, whether this is Sumerian text or whether it's even different interpretations of the Bible, you'll see that it references many times different ET connections. But the interpretation of it may not be there to where people understand that. But if you look at it from a certain point of view, you can see it's very obvious. I went to when I was going through my spiritual awakening in 2012, 2013, I went with my dad and my two of my half-sisters. We went to a place at the Grand Canyon. And when we went to the Grand Canyon, we went to this one Hopi temple. And I felt such a strong connection to this temple, this Hopi temple that we go into. And when you look up, there were these symbols of these people, and then these ET craft floating above them. And this Hopi temple was hundreds of years old. But I felt a very strong connection to it. And I remember since that time, my spiritual awakening really sped up. But I felt a connection. I felt like back in the Hopi tribe, at least, or many different tribes, have connections to these ET races because they can perceive of them because they're of a similar vibration. They're open to it. They can connect to it. So a lot of the second phase of first contact is us becoming aware of the connection that we've had for thousands of years, but we've simply forgot about. So it's already here. It's happening now, too. There's different levels of disclosure coming out. You look at a show called Cosmic Disclosure on Gaia TV, and you have these whistleblowers coming through, people like Corey Good that have seen, and Emery Smith, who have seen and been around this kind of stuff, worked for different organizations and said, I also know somebody as well that's older now that has been through and knows and has expressed to me 100% that the government and different sections of our world know 100% that the ETs exist, and they even study with them and they even do work with them. So it is something that has been suppressed for thousands of years, and now we're becoming more aware of it. So it's us understanding there's free energy. There's us understanding that we have this connection, and we've had this connection for thousands of years. So it's not so much about the future, but just knowing it's already been here. The second phase is us having some certain type of information disclosed to us that has prior been hidden. And right now we're going through a part of the universe. We're going through a part of where Earth is moving through. It's a high vibrational photonic light that is increasing the vibration of our bodies as we go through it. This is talked about in the Law of One. Bashar talks about this. Dolores Cannon's work talks about this. We're moving through a part. The universe doesn't just revolve like this. It's spinning and it's moving through different areas. And one thing that has been expressed is that the area that we're moving through right now is such a high vibration that it's speeding up our vibration and making us become more aware of ourselves. That's one of the phases of first contact, is us speeding up our vibration and becoming aware of what's already been around us. The third phase of first contact is actual first contact with higher vibrational beings. Bashar says that this is most highly likely to happen between that of 2025 to 2033. Now, he says that this is meant, and this is going to happen at first in very small batches. It's not going to mean that in that time period that it's like proclaimed on CNN or Fox News. However, it is stated, and what he states is that if you are of the vibration of it, you may go to maybe a part of Sedona, a secluded part, and you may have contact with them. Now, before I get too far into this phase, the second phase as well, and this is a part that Bashar said his civilization went through, is we start to have memories that surface within us of us in these higher vibrational states. So imagine every single night you go to bed, you're awake in these higher vibrational states of being, connected to other ET races, and imagine some of these memories come back to you. Memories like, oh yes, this memory has been clouded from me, but this is something that did happen. Well, you can't fight anyone else. It's something within your own consciousness, and these memories are going to begin to come back to us. I've had some of these memories surface. At nighttime, I realized that at nighttime, it's similar to like a school. We're also learning and teaching in nighttime. And these memories have surfaced for me, so it makes me more aware of this multidimensional aspect. That's one of the phases as well. You may have these starseed memories. You may have memories of why you came here, memories of you in higher vibrational states of consciousness as you open up to this information. Now, the third phase, let me elaborate a little bit more on that, is going to be more in smaller batches. And by 2050, Bashar says that we will then have a high degree of likelihood that we will then emerge as a galactic federation, as one of the galactic federations will literally be initiated into a higher level connection to other ET races. And this is happening now. And there are some people on the planet that have had ET connection, first contact. It already has happened for some people. But as time goes on, you can only perceive that which you are the vibration of. It will increase for us. But in our lifetime, I do believe that first contact will happen. What level? I don't know. Whether it's ET technology is released or higher vibrational technology is released. A lot of it's already been here, by the way. It's just been suppressed. And then it's us becoming more aware, and then us perceiving of these beings. Or whether it doesn't happen for 30 years. I don't know. I do believe it will happen, though. And I believe that these three different phases are all happening right now. And now you kind of know what to expect. You know how you can relate to these different aspects. Don't be surprised if after hearing this information, you have certain memories surface. Don't be surprised if you get these in dream state. Don't be surprised if in meditation you start connecting to this energy. Don't be surprised if you start to feel these different connections. Because now it's going to be happening more and more as time goes on. It's not going to slow down at all. It's going to continue to speed up. The old systems have to fall away for these new ideas to emerge and for us to start asking the question. You have the whole Area 51 thing that has happened recently where people are demanding information, and it's just showing how much more people are waking up to this information. So know that you're not alone. You clicked on this video. There's many other people that are into this type of information. And as time goes on, I will share more and more about it. We're right now moving into a 5D level of consciousness, and it's very exciting. If you would like as well, I made one of the most powerful meditations I've ever made. It will help you tap into the 5D energy so that you're able to disassociate from the old reality and then be in a high vibe state. Listen to it for 21 days. I think it can absolutely change your life. It'll be in the top of the description box below. Also, turn on the notifications so that you can see the daily videos I do. The way YouTube does it now is you can only see the daily videos if you hit that notification bell. So you can hit that right below. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like it if you liked it. And as always, I'll see you on the next video. Peace, much love, and namaste.